Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. So how do we, as string players, actually get ourselves to be heard when we're up against instruments like electric guitars, acoustic guitars even, drum kits, basses and 5 different singers? A question I've asked myself many times. Now, if you follow me on Instagram, you will have seen that I have had the immense privilege of playing on a few different tracks over the course of my career, but especially over the last few months. And this is an area where I absolutely had to learn on the job. I got zero training in how to do this. So I was very lucky. I had some amazing people who sort of mentored me through the process, and hopefully I can share some of that wisdom with you. Now, this is a little bit of a part 2 video to a wonderful video that I absolutely loved that I made with a very dear friend of mine, John Solway, which I will have linked up here and in the description bar below. And he is just a fount of wisdom generally, but also musically. So please do check that video out if this is an area of the industry that you are interested in being a part of. That video is kind of specifically talking about in a worship band setting, but most of what we talk about is 100% applicable to all forms of electronic music. I don't know how else to phrase it. Electronic music makes me sound ancient. If anybody else knows of a better phrase, then please comment it down below. But that video and the Instagram posts prompted a few questions, so I hope that I can address them today. The first one and the biggest one is, how do you hear yourself? A great question, my friend. You will have to have in-ears in. And now by in-ears, we mean in-ear monitors, and they are effectively fancy earphones. So you can get away, I mean, I will get crucified for this, but you can get away with using normal plug-in earphones, but they are not going to do a good enough job, really. In a push, you can get away with them. In an emergency. But in-ear monitors are much more snugly fitted into your ears. You can get ones that are molded. They are much more expensive, but they do exist. The ones that I have, I'll have them linked down below, are just very well fitted into your ear, and what they do is they isolate the noises much better. They're basically just much better quality than your average pair of earphones, and they will allow you to ask the sound guys to put yourself up in your mix, and you can change things and just hear what you need to. Obviously, the mix that you have in your ears will vary depending on the other instruments that you have in the band, but I would say as a string player, if there is a keyboardist, you need to be able to hear them, you need to be able to hear the lead vocalist, you need to be able to hear the lead guitarist, whoever that is, be it an electric or an acoustic instrument, and you need to be able to hear the bass. And I like to have a reasonably even split between all of those things, because as an orchestral and chamber musician, I'm used to this big kind of cacophony of sound and picking out what I need just with my own ears. So I quite like that, because then it just makes me feel a little bit more at home in what is otherwise quite an alien environment. It can also be quite an adjustment getting used to hearing your string instrument through earphones rather than organically. This is something where I actually like to ask the sound guy to put just a little bit of reverb, just a little bit. You don't want too much, because otherwise then tuning becomes difficult, but you want just a little bit on your sound, because that's what you're used to. You're not used to a hardline direct sound, and it can be quite off-putting, and because it just doesn't sound very good. And you could just be playing and be like, oh no, what is this? So ask for a little bit of reverb if it is available. Of course, this does depend on the sound desk and everything else, but I'm trying to talk as generally as I can here. But don't have it up too loud. Have it up so that you can hear it, but don't have it blasting in your ears. Number one, not good for your ears. Number two, again, off-putting. We are not used to hearing ourselves that directly right into our eardrums with nothing else around us. So make sure that you have a nice mix of what you want to be able to hear, but also have yourself just a tiny bit, a little bit up in the mix so that you can hear what you're doing. I would also say that if you are working with a very good sound technician and you are not used to this and you're not used to doing your own mix, then just ask them to put together a mix for you. Chances are that they will do a really good job. In my experience, when I've done my own mix, it's been awful, and then when the wonderful people who whose job it is, shockingly, do it, it's much better. Now, generally speaking, as string players, when we are playing in an electronic band, our role is to really fill in when it's a slower song, it's a quieter song, and when it's a more melodic song. However, when there is a more lively, upbeat track, then sometimes you don't want to just be stood there like a lemon on stage, because that's just awkward. So if you're not sure what to play, I would suggest listen in on what the bass is doing. Say they're doing crotchets in quite a fast tempo, you can play quavers over the top. Do the same kind of harmonies and things that you would do if it was a slow song, but just up the energy a little bit. Now, I can almost guarantee you that the people out the front will not be able to hear you because especially if there are electric guitars, especially electric guitars are the death of being able to hear strings. Sorry, electric guitarists, I love you. You know I do, but it's true. So if they're going full blast, no one will be able to hear you. So honestly, I would just say jam along and have fun. That's what I do. And nobody's fired me yet. So I say yet, maybe I should send some messages. Another question I got was when to play the melody versus playing sort of more background stuff. And they actually used the example of tremolo. Now, I actually don't use tremolo really when I'm playing in an electric band. It's just not a sound or a technique that comes across overly well when there is only one string player doing it. That's really more of a section. And now obviously we use these effects, and if the person writing the song wants it, then of course I'd put it in. But it isn't something that I would offer up as an option to somebody because, like I say, I just think it can sound a bit odd when it's on its own. So when it comes to when to play the melody, I often will sort of mirror the vocal line in what they're doing. I'll either play a harmony underneath their vocal line, or I will sort of mark the tune, as it were. And this is something that I did a lot. In a recent track I was on for Vineyard Worship UK, it's Jesus Worthy of Our Worship. And in that one, you can hear, I'm literally just kind of pinging the main melody notes and then just kind of letting it die a little bit each time. So you get this sort of emphasis of the tune, which just creates a really beautiful, if I may say so, effect around the vocal line. And also because you are a string player, strings and vocals go together so beautifully. So particularly if it is a slower, more melodic kind of a song, if you are kind of softly playing the melody along with the vocal line, that can provide such a beautiful effect. And also vocalists love it because a string instrument is a lovely thing to sing on top of, and they'll often comment that they feel really nicely supported and that they can just kind of relax and just sing it really freely, which is lovely. Now, a big tip that I have if you are wanting to get into playing more in bands is to get to know the Nashville system. And this is a way of using numbers to relate to chords. And it's very easy. So chord 1 is 1, chord 2 is 2, chord 3 is 3. You get the picture. And guitarists particularly enjoy speaking in this sort of language, if you like, because it works very well for them when they're swapping between whether they're using a capo or not. So if you can also become just very fluent in knowing exactly what they mean when they say, you know, we're in G major and it's going to be a 5 there. Can you immediately think of what chord that's going to be? If not, something to practice. And then my last thing is to just not take it too seriously. I think, and obviously do a good job, be professional, but a lot of the time there is a lot more grace and freedom in that kind of a setup than there is when you're playing maybe a classical piece, or if you're in an orchestra, obviously you have to play what's on the page, you have to play what everybody else is, because otherwise you're gonna get fired, being perfectly honest. But if you're in a band and you're the only string player, you have freedom, and lean into that. I know that improvisation is something that is utterly terrifying to most classical musicians, and for good reason. We just don't do it. But it is actually a skill that you 100% have in your wheelhouse. Just trust your ear. You will be able to hear where the harmony is going. A lot of the time these songs are not very harmonically complicated, okay? And if in doubt, ask for the chord sheets and just play the root notes. And then once you've gotten really comfortable with that, then you can start adding the thirds in. Literally, that's it. That's how I started. And now I'm at a place where I can just listen to a song and play along with it. Because my ear knows where to go, I know what the harmonies are, I know what the chords are, I know what's likely to happen next. And it just gives you such a confidence and such an ownership of your own musical ability that we just don't really get when we're used to playing dolls all the time. So I think that covers all of the questions that I had about it. But as always, if you have anything you'd like to add, then please do comment them down below. Send me a message on Instagram. I am more than happy to make multiple videos. I do not mind at all, as long as it is of help to you guys. So yes, I will see you in the next one. Check out that video with John if you have any more questions. We may address them in that video, and I will see you guys super, super soon. Bye.